All right, I have Chad Clifton with us, and he's one of our newest artists that we started playing here. In fact, you've probably heard several of the songs here, really this last week as they began to play. So I want to introduce our audience to Chad and have him just kind of share a little bit about his background and what kind of got him to where he is with music. So, Chad, just kind of share a little bit about what got you into music, what got you to where you are today.
Yeah, how do you summarize 50 years in a few seconds here? But I'll
Yeah,
try to do it to save some time. First of all, I'm excited to be with you, Dan. Thanks for having me. Really appreciate what you do, and just grateful to be able to share my story and music with whoever may hear this today or in the future online. But music's a big part of my life. I can remember as a young kid grabbing a guitar with a couple strings on it and trying to make some music and bringing it in to the family, and everybody told me it was good, but it was horrible, right? And so I just remember music meant so much to me back then, and it still does. And so songwriting for me has been a place where I know that I hear from God through music in my soul. Sometimes I wake up in the morning and a melody is rolling through my head, and I'll say, "Man, God's giving me something this morning. He's speaking in my heart." So it is a way that I connect with my Creator and my Savior first and foremost, but it's also a huge way that I encourage other people on this planet who struggle, who need some encouragement. And that was the whole purpose of this album and trying to put it together. So, again, I'm grateful to share some of this with you guys.
fantastic. I appreciate that. Yeah. And for those that are regular listeners to the network, know that our music, some usually call it very eclectic, but they know our philosophy is we want to deal with real world issues from a biblical worldview. And that's one of the things I really appreciate about listening to this new album, because it is deals with the real world issues. It comes from a little bit more of a country music flair,
Yep.
which again does still fit within our the genre of styles that we have on the station, because there's one thing you can say about country music, it's real world stuff.
Yeah.
But I appreciate what you put to it. And the title of this particular newest album you have, There Is Hope. What better biblical worldview can you get than There Is Hope? Share us a
Yeah.
little bit about as far as the album coming together, the songs, and really kind of what's behind the scenes there with this album.
Yeah. I'll take you back to 2020. We all know what happened that year. I'm not even going to say the C word on the air here.
Yeah.
But I found myself being able to break away from the grind of life, the grind of ministry. And I'm a pastor, been a pastor in West Georgia for 26 years.
And
But I
I'll break in
remember,
real quick in our
absolutely.
home church now. And we
Yes,
love that. We love the church and love Brother Chad and the whole church there. So thank you. Sorry to
we're
interrupt you there. Yeah.
we're honored. No, man, we're honored to have your family here and been enjoying getting to know y'all. So obviously sitting and having more time to process, think, and what we were all dealing with. And I just found myself at the piano a little bit more and the guitar a little bit more, and these melodies and songs that I've been putting on hold because of a busy life. Now I had time to work on it. And fast forward in 2021, I just felt like I was not being a good steward of what was in my heart and in my phone. I bet there are probably 600 voice memos in my phone right now, stuff. And I listened to a bunch of them this morning, just listening back even to 2010. That's how far back these memos go, and just hearing ideas and songs. And so I said, all right, I met with a guy that I know can produce. David Lanza is on the credits on the album, and he was an incredible help to me. I sat with him and said, look, I'm going to pursue this. I don't know what that means. I don't know how many songs, but I need somebody who will help me put it together. And Dave stepped in and said, let's go. And that was incredible. And then after that, making an album is a very expensive process. After that, I remember going to a friend, business owner, and saying, look, here's my plan. God's doing something in me. I want to make this music to encourage people's souls, but I don't have the money to do it like I want to. And he wrote me a check for $10,000. And
Praise
that
the
kind of
Lord.
launched the process to be able to say, all right, God's doing something here. And after that, another check and another check with people who just believed in the process to bring it to life. And that began the recording journey for me and what came out late last year with a group of friends, and then now digitally, the Always Hope album. So it's been an incredible journey of writing, creating, and exploring what God brought together in this album.
I just, it's always amazing to me. and I don't know if it should be, but it is how God just puts things together, puts things on our heart, and if we'll just follow Him, He provides, He makes the way to be able to do that. And yeah, and you mentioned the fact that all the credits that are on there. Those who've been listening to some of the songs might have already heard some voices kind of in the background that they're familiar with. You had Autumn Neal and Streetman on
Yeah,
the album as well, and Bill Shivers
incredible.
from Brian Free and Assurance on there. We know them
Yeah.
real well, and so I'm glad they got to be a part of this as well. So, how did you put together the team of some people that helped you with this?
Well, first of all, collaboration makes everything better. Songwriting is no exception to that. So when you get the right people in the room to write, create, produce, and make things happen, that makes it better. And if you're not willing to do that, if there's any songwriters listening and they're dreaming about doing something big or bigger than what you've done before, man, people make it better. So you got to find a team of people you believe in, a group of people that can help you. To answer your question, Autumn came to Midway to lead worship with us. And so I got to know her and heard her incredible voice. And I just called her one day and said, "Hey, would you be willing to do this?" I sent her a really rough demo. I mean, I would not play this for you. When I look back at the demos, I'm like, "Dear Lord, I can't believe I ever shared this with anybody." But it also gives you a metric for where you started and where you got
Yeah,
to. So she said yes. Man, in the studio with her, that song, Never Lose, has already gotten a great response. In fact, it's the most played off the album on Spotify right now. So you can go check it out. But man, she is an incredible, incredible vocalist. Bill's become a personal friend of mine. We've done some collaboration together on a song that right now has the potential to be published. So I'm really excited about that. Hopefully, more details to share down the road. But an incredible guy, Pat Barker, friend of mine from high school, sings with a Southern gospel music quartet professionally as well. Corey Pearson was a part of a quartet for a while and a worship pastor. So to be able to collaborate and have those people in there, and then my favorite vocalist, my daughter,
yeah.
Gracie, is on several of the tracks. My son Caden sang a little bit. So for me, the collaboration and the group effort, it makes everything special. If you get somewhere and you're there all by yourself, it just doesn't mean as much as if you do it together. So I'm grateful for their investment.
Yeah, yeah, and it definitely shows. And again, we've really enjoyed listening to the whole album. Um, One of the hardest things about a station like ours is, as hard as it is, as you guys put together the music, we have to get to pick the ones that we've got to be able to get on. And but the good thing is we get to enjoy all of it, even though we may not necessarily get all of it in playtime. But I appreciate you doing that. So I mentioned earlier it's more of a country music type flair. Tell us the background of why you chose to be able to reach that particular audience with your music.
Yeah, great question, Dan. So as a pastor, I've written worship music and songs for the church that they stay right here. But when I go out in the world, and I've been privileged to travel around the world to many countries to meet people on the streets and to hear their stories, and that's changed me. It's changed me forever as I think about life and how to use what God's given me to try to encourage people. And with that, I meet men who don't connect with modern worship music, but they still love the Lord and they have a desire to honor Him, but their marriages struggle. They struggle raising their kids. They have issues in their life. And so for me, the call felt like, and God brought it to be, to write music for that man's soul that would let him know that there's always hope and that there is a path to find hope. And so that's where these songs really came out of. And it was different. Some people didn't understand, still don't understand why I did what I did, but it felt like an obedient step, and God's honoring it right now.
Well, I appreciate you being obedient, and again, we embrace that. We feel like there's an audience out there, particularly our target audience is that younger generation. And I say younger generation, I guess I can say that under the age of 40. Those of us who are
Not
in
me.
excess of 50 and 60 is very clear. And but they're looking for hope. They're looking for a message, and sometimes they're not already in the church or resonating with that. But
Yeah.
it's our job as the church to reach them. So sometimes we've got to stretch out a little bit. And I appreciate you being obedient to the Lord to reach that. And again, we don't back away from some of that music here on the network because we know that's our audience. We know we're connecting with people
Yeah.
that are looking for answers, but not necessarily know, to get them in that traditional way that many of us who grew up in church, that's kind of what all we knew. But as you mentioned, I appreciate that. You get out there in the world in true ministry, you'll see there's a whole world out there that the church I think is missing.
Yeah.
Because we got
Disconnected.
we got wrapped up in staying within our four walls or
Right.
going to somebody else's four walls and not really getting out there. So I appreciate that. Again, you mentioned being in ministry. I'd love our audience to know, because we want our audience to know these aren't just artists that are writing music and singing. These are real people. So tell us a little bit about your ministry, where you came from, where you are now, maybe God's working with you and in your ministry now.
Yeah, I've been privileged to be at Midway Church in West Georgia for 26 years in a variety of roles, student pastor, worship leader, creative pastor, done led our missions ministry. Most recently, Next Gen ministry, which I learned the most doing Next Gen and kids ministry at our church, and then moved into an executive pastor role, which allows me the privilege of cheering on the younger generation and helping them succeed and removing obstacles that they may be facing. So it's a season of life. I'll turn 50 in a few months, and it's a season of life where I'm just grateful to have had some experience, learned a lot, failed a lot, made a lot of mistakes, but had a gracious pastor who allowed me to make those mistakes and continue to learn and invest and grow as a leader. And I think the older we get, there are seasons of life as we get into certain decades where we've got to look back behind us and we got to say, hey, I've learned a lot of what I need to learn. Now it's time to transfer that and help other people do that. So that's the season I'm in right now, and I'm very grateful to be able to do that.
Well, thank you. I know, and those that have been in ministry, as as long as we have, I've got a few more years on you. Yeah, if you go into ministry thinking, oh, this is going to be great and everything is going to be wonderful and cherries, and you're going to make mistakes, things are going to be difficult. But I look back, as you said, now there are things that I can share with this next generation. You can share with this next generation, and I think that was the whole point. I mean, you look back. And those, again, they're very familiar with our network and some things that we do. I've always touted that the first youth pastor was Moses,
Hmm.
in that he told the older people, "You're going to die." And the very next statement he makes is, "Okay, now when you get in the land of promise, here's what you need to know." He immediately started communicating to that younger generation.
Yeah.
And then at the end of those 40 years, he said, now let's remember, now it's your job to teach that next generation. You have to remind them. And so that's one of the biggest things that I've learned in our ministry is my job is to learn what I can learn from the Lord, being obedient, and then turn around and say, okay, let me teach you, because now it's about to be your job to teach that next generation. When you
Right.
think about it, those who are in their 30s and 40s, those are the ones that have the young kids. They're responsible for teaching them. It's our privilege, I guess, now that we've got above that age, and our children, and I know your children are grown, ours as well, and to be able to say, all right, now it's our job to help you.
Yeah.
And so with that, I love the fact that, again, the music that you have, I think a couple of the songs that we have, obviously the title "Always Hope," I Miss You, America Thanks You, the ones that we're playing there, it really
Wow.
does, I think, feels like it is sending out message to that next generation. So I appreciate that. Any next steps as far as music on the horizon? Or you mentioned you're maybe looking with Bill and maybe doing some stuff there. So what's coming up next?
I appreciate you asking that. So the album you have in your hand, it's we released the vinyl just to show your listeners. It was a 15 song vinyl that and CD and a USB cassette, which was a new thing. But I released that with friends and family at a private event last year. And then recently, 10 of those songs made it to Spotify, iTunes, and wherever you stream music. So I appreciate you playing them. My listeners on Spotify have gone up significantly over the last week. I'm assuming a big part of that is you guys playing it. So thank you for that. The other five songs, two of them had already been released. So you can find America Thanks You and the song I wrote for my son's graduation back in 2023 called Don't Forget. Those were previous release, but there are three songs left that'll be singles this year. There'll be a single called I Do in April. There'll be a song I wrote for my daughter, a father's relationship called Heaven and Earth that'll be released around Father's Day. And then the song I Miss You is a really emotional song about losing two brothers over a decade ago. And in fact, the opening of that song has a voicemail from my brother on it, my oldest brother, Chris. So that'll be released, and I believe it'll resonate. And then there's another single that'll come out later this year called Hometown that I'm working on, a brand new single. So I'm excited about what's down the road and just trying to be a good steward of the music God's given me.
Well, I appreciate it. And again, we love what you do. We love your passion for souls, even the ministry, but then being able to step outside the doors and reach a group of people that we're not normally reaching. And I appreciate that. I appreciate you being a part of that. Well, thank you for just taking a few minutes with us. And we look forward to be able to maybe get some more music down the road and get those out there. And again, yeah, we love the fact that there's, as things come close to Mother's Day and Father's Day, some of those things, we always love to grab some of those songs because it does resonate. So we'll probably be grabbing a few more off of the album. Tell everybody where they can get your music, where they can purchase your music, because I know it's great that they're listening to it, but it's even better when they buy it. So where can they get your music?
It is, and thank you for asking that question. Every musician appreciates that. So I would say, honestly, as an independent artist, once I put my stuff out there publicly, I give it away for free. So I'm thankful that a group of people, like I said, last December helped support that initially and gave me some funds to work with for this year. You can go get it for free right now. ChadWClifton.com will take you to the streams. It's streaming everywhere, Spotify, iTunes. If you want to purchase the vinyl, would love to send you one of those. That's on ChadWClifton.com as well, and be glad to ship one of those to you if you're a vinyl collector. So we'd be honored to share any of my music. Thanks for listening. It's much appreciated.
Thanks, Chad. Appreciate you being with us.
Thanks,
Thanks.
Dan. Appreciate it. Bye.